Welcome, everyone. We're here today to celebrate Amazio's 5th birthday. I'm Felix Morgan. I'm going to be your host and your guide, and we're going to recount the story of Amazio's origin, our journey to where we are now, and what we achieved. And we're also going to talk about what we can expect in the future. So to fully get the picture of the backstory of Amazio, we've got everyone who was there at the beginning and some other guests along the way. So we've got Amazilabs founders, CFO Dania Gerhardt, Group Chairman Greg Gerhardt, and the Head of Technology Michael Schmid. Give us a little wave. And then we've also got Platform Lead Partner Bastian Widmer and Technical Account Manager Tyler Ward. So hi everybody, and Franz Karlsberger. Um, so yeah, I'm Felix Morgan. We're going to start out with a little video talking about Amazio and some of our origins. Oh, so many classic moments in there. That was lovely. So we're going to start from the very beginning. This first question is for you, Dania, and I'd love for you to just walk us through a little bit about Amazilabs and kind of the early days of hosting, and tell us a little bit about that.
So Amazilabs is Amazio's sister company. Some of you might know that. Amazilabs builds websites mainly. So we started with the company in 2007, our first company that we founded together. And in 2010, we really started building websites for third parties. We started as a Drupal shop. So we were focused on designing and building small to medium-sized Drupal websites at that time. And for us, hosting was just a basic included offering. It was clear for our clients and for us that if they want to build a website with us, that it'll come with the hosting. Because at that stage, it wasn't a highly sophisticated offering. It was basically a lot of plug and play solutions that we wanted to offer. Plus, we got into more complex solutions, but that took a year or two more. But as we started developing more complex websites, we saw that our hosting solution probably didn't quite keep up. Our offering there was basic, and we had one person who was really capable of managing the server side of the business. And we did see a need and an interest to actually dig deeper into that topic. We noted quite early days on that it's worth investing more. And our CTO and co-founder, Michael, who will speak more about that, had a strong passion as well for the hosting side. And I think spent many nights and weekends just trying to improve our offering there. And that was probably the first spark that led to everything else that we're seeing today about Amazee.io.
Yeah, building on that, Michael, can you talk a little bit about why you didn't use other hosting providers and why it made sense to do it yourself?
Yeah, the problem was really we needed hosting in Switzerland. As a Switzerland-based company with mostly Swiss customers at the time when Amazilabs existed, they all wanted to host in Switzerland, either just because they liked it or because of regulatory reasons. So we had, for example, some financial institutions that are laws that they have to host in Switzerland. And at that time, the first Drupal specialized hosting companies existed, but they all were mostly in the US. And we tried to convince them many times to come to Switzerland, and they just didn't see it as a market that really could be big enough. And so we said, okay, you have a problem, you find a solution, and you build it yourself. So that's really how we started. We jumped quite around with because we never really wanted to have our own physical servers. That was something that we didn't want to do. So we worked with different partners in Switzerland that actually provided the physical hosting. But yeah, in the end, we just were almost forced to build it ourselves.
Yeah. And Bastian, you were there at the very beginning as well. Can you talk a little bit about the first Amazilabs internal hosting solutions? What did those look like?
Sure. Well, to start with that, to describe that, vastly different. At the beginning, like you basically knew every server by heart because you knew where your sites are deployed, and it was very simple, very small times. But it was also a lot of limitations. So when we had already at that time scaling events where we had customers that had or wanted to run like high traffic sites on it, but usually it was the time when the customer gives you a call and says, hey, in 2 weeks we have that event and we will need to scale. And then you have 2 weeks to scale. But we also needed that time to really get the infrastructure going because everything was very depending on manual work. That said, like it was also very different times team-wise. In the beginning, we did the whole 24/7 game, basically with 2 engineers. That was Michael and me. From today's standpoint, a little bit a crazy start because sometimes we arrived at work and somebody or Michael said, hey, nice how you fixed that. And I'm like, I did what? Like, oh yeah, you fixed that problem at 3 a.m. and you couldn't even remember. So that was fun. But I'm also happy that we at some point added more people, like Tyler joined also very early on.
Yeah. Going back to you, Michael, when did the ideas start to start offering hosting outside of Amazilabs clients?
Yeah, I mean, it was never the plan from the beginning. Like we always tried to solve a problem to ourselves. We tried to solve a problem for the other engineers of Amazilabs, and Basti and I, we started to build tools that the developers liked, that we liked, and we felt like this is how the solution should look like. And funny enough, I do remember there was like, at that time I gave a lot of sessions at like DrupalCons, and I had to like show like how we deploy, but the presentation wasn't actually really about how we deployed. It was more like what the site could do. But the questions afterwards were more about how did you just deploy and how do you actually host than about the presentation that I gave. And so this happened more and more. Also in Switzerland, Drupal had quite a boost at that time. And so more and more agencies in Switzerland started to host in Drupal, and they all had the same problem of hosting in Switzerland. So it was really that external questions like, why don't you allow people on it and things like that. And so over time, we sat together, Basti and I, and we felt like, okay, actually we could do this. Then Tyler also joined, and the 3 of us really said, okay, technically this would be possible. And of course, it's way more complex in terms of security than you think at the beginning. But we felt like, okay, this could be done, and yeah, so we then tried it with one customer, and from there on, we really we felt, yes, we can do that, and we should actually create a company.
Nice. And Greg, I'm curious. So Michael comes to you and he says, "Let's start a hosting company." What was your reaction? What were you thinking at that time?
Yeah, I'm always delighted to witness Michael's initiatives. Yeah, and at that time, we already had spun up one company that was Amazilabs, so we had a bit of experience in creating new business cases, and we're regularly discussing new fields in which we could expand the whole Amazia offering. And so I actually had to go back to kind of see what we noted down in the board minutes. And what I found is that on the 14th of July, 2015, the minutes say the board discusses a future diversification scenario into hosting services. The board will discuss this service line extension in the full meeting of the board meeting of the holding. Michael will prepare a rough business case. So by 28th of January 2016, the venture was approved already with a seed funding of 150K, however, still incubated within Amazilabs at that time. And a funny little anecdote from the minutes there, I found the case will most probably be called Amazio in brackets to be reconfirmed for market validity before launch. Yes, and by the 1st of January 2017, Amazio was officially funded or founded in a separate company. So overall, it's been I would say, an extended process, well thought through, that lasted 1.5 years from ideation to incubation in Amazilabs to the official founding of Amazio.
That's really cool. A little view into the inner workings of the beginning there. Bastian, what was really exciting for you at the beginning, technology-wise? And tell us about if there was any early challenges, like as you're developing and launching kind of for the first time as IO.
Yeah, so there are always challenges, but I feel we had a very unique position to start out from, mostly because we already had partially an existing customer base, and we were really close to our customers. So we always asked ourselves, like, who do we build for? What do developers need? How can we make the workflow of the developers better? And what is missing on all the other solutions out there? So we had really that playing field where we could try ideas and start to like push new technology into our stack and like see how it works. And we also had customers that were like very challenging. Like they had ideas like, hey, we now want to use Node on the front end. We were like, okay, we need to build that. And at that time, we only had like all those technologies just like running on our computers. And suddenly we had a use case that the customer really wants that. So that was like, we had challenges there. Also, like challenges were like, how do we structure work? And it's also interesting to see like, kind of like the name that is like, that we said in the beginning, things, well, like if you start a company with a few people, like the processes you do in the beginning, they will stick around for a long time. So in the beginning, we started to structure work. We had one stand-up every 24 hours. And we grew that into like a remote team. And we always wanted to have the company remote because we went through the pain of doing a 24/7 business in one time zone, which was not what we were aiming for. And now we are like, when I look at the stand-up schedule, which is also online, like we have all those small initiatives. And now we have 4 stand-ups and 30 people and great minds around the world, which is really great to see.
That's awesome. Tyler, you've also been with IO for a while. I'd love to hear a little bit about what it looked like when you joined, and what your work initially was, and a little bit more about how that's changed for early days.
Oh, it's changed so much. One of the great things about when I started was, Bastian alluded to it, is that we had customers who had very interesting challenges, but we also had customers who were interested in our challenges of growing a hosting business and being able to build the new things. So the work was a bit of holdover from old systems, kind of shared hosting mindset and building automation on top of those things. But then we had customers who we talked to about, oh, this Docker thing is taking over, getting into that side of it. And we're happy to experiment with us to find ways to solve their problems at the same time. So it was a bit of, really cool combo of solving problems, both ours and the customers at the same time. The day-to-day stuff was, spreadsheet ops, so much Puppet code, all these things. But through the whole process, we continually be taking the things we were learning along the way through ourselves and through our customers and wrapping that into the next step of the hosting platform. And just that's been a continual process, watching, what I do every day kind of change based on what we learned 2 weeks ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, always continually evolving and carrying things forward. It's a lot of fun.
It's really neat, like a true partnership in that. And yeah, we've talked a lot about the beginning. I kind of want to hear from you, Michael, about like after the initial stuff, and Tyler hinted at some of the developments. When did you know that you really wanted to expand it into some of the things that we see now today?
Yeah, funny enough, it's not that like Tyler, Bastian, myself sat together and said, okay, now let's build the next big thing. It's really more like, you're chasing the customers almost. Like I think we were really lucky that our customers also, they challenged themselves. And so like the fact that we used Kubernetes was not our decision. A customer came to us and said, hey, we need like a Node.js hosting. Our hosting solution at that point couldn't do anything at all. We then sat together, we did a little hackathon and said, okay, let's try. And 2 days later, we had a very rough hosting on Node.js and Kubernetes. And so we started using that. And then like you realize at the same time, there's other customers coming and like gradually you're building something. And at one point you're realizing, hey, we now just re-implemented our whole hosting infrastructure without actually like deciding to do this. And so that's very much how it goes. That this is a constant re-evaluating. What are we doing? Is it the right thing? Is there something better out there? And today it's definitely, I think, we're looking a bit more into the future. Like now we actually have times where we think about, okay, what is going to come? Not to always chase, but also to be ahead of the curve. That has to do with Kubernetes, with Lagoon, with open source things. But it's still very much that hosting business is, like Tyler said, it's like every 2 weeks there is something new that you have to understand, that you can use, that you have to decide, should we use it? And so, I do remember specifically like there was one migration very, very early and we really felt like, okay, we do every migration once and that's it. And I think right now we have like every year or two, we have a big migration again. And so, it's just something that you constantly need to improve. But I think that's also something I really love about this team. Everybody understands this, that we need to constantly push ourselves, learn new things, do new things. Because if we would stand still, it would only take a couple of years and then a new technology or another company will take us over. And then you're just stuck with these old solutions that nobody wants.
I think you kind of hinted at it, but like as a follow-up question, your focus like by developers for developers, that seems like it played a key role in the innovation, right? Because you're approaching it the same way that developers are whenever it comes to a new technology or a new problem. Is that right?
Yeah, from the very beginning, like me and Basti, we sat right next to the developers. So if we built something that was not cool, you either heard it immediately or like, over lunch, they started to complain about the tools that you just wrote. So this was this constant thing that, we wanted to build tools that are really for the developers to use something that they really, really love. And that was totally, and still today, is something that drives us every day.
Wonderful. Since this is a celebration, I kind of want to hear about like a great moment of Amazii.io from you, Michael? Like a moment of achievement or a big win or something memorable?
That's a good question. I think one of the key points that, like, for me really changed how I looked at the company and how I looked at the platform was the signing with the Australian government, the GovCMS project. Because that's really, like, so far until that point, yes, we have had a couple of customers that really depended on us, but having a whole government that like says, okay, we're going to put 500 websites on your infrastructure, and like websites that I even visited myself to like figure out what are the immigration laws and stuff, that was definitely like a point that you realized, oh wow, okay, we're actually doing this now. Like it's this, it overtakes you that, and like, and yeah, seeing also like how excited these people are to use new technologies, like that's really what was a major point for me. But I also have to say, like, there were so many in between. Like there's always this big achievement and you think, okay, this is now it. I do remember like Bastian and I, we had like a screen in the office which showed like how many hits that are currently running, and I think we celebrated when we had more than 1 million hit in a week. Like this was the big celebration. Now we do this every minute. Like it's like these, this just the scalability of the system is really massive, and you're constantly being taken over by new ideas, new customers that want to work with you. So, and I really believe that's also like that's a lot of piece has to do with the open source. That we really say, hey, everything is open source, anybody can see everything, and that's the second piece where I really felt, okay, that was a good decision, that was the right decision. It's gonna go further than here.
Yeah. Speaking about the future, I'd love for you, Franz, to tell us, the current CEO, tell us about kind of some more recent accomplishments, bring us up to speed, and tell us where we're going next after our birthday celebration.
Sure, happy to do so, Felix. But before answering your question, also let me take time to thank our customers and partners who have actually brought us that far. So they have shown with their loyalty and trust, that we can deliver what we actually promised them. So without them, it would not be possible actually to grow the team and be actually fully operational in all major geolocations. So we have team in EMEA, we have teams in APAC, we have teams in the Americas. So this is a cornerstone with them. But also I need personally, or want to personally thank the entire team, because without them, with the entire Amazio family and their dedication, their contribution to delivering the best open source WebOps platform and WebOps as a service to our customers and partners, that would not be possible. So it's really a pleasure on working with the entire team to have this global team and how we are coming together and how we then help and empower global organizations actually and governments in what we are doing. So this is really something which I'm very proud of on being and leading that team, because it really helps us to deliver on those promises. But you asked me about the accomplishments, and let's talk about some of them which have been recently. So one thing which was really a breakthrough moment for us was that we early on had this bet on Kubernetes. So this is really where we were able to build a super flexible, scalable, open source WebOps platform, and we have highly skilled Kubernetes experts in our own team. And that basically allows our customers to fully harness the power of Kubernetes in production. So they don't need to have the experts in-house, they actually can rely on Amazio. So, and this is really something which changed the game. Secondly, what also Michael mentioned already, our continued commitment to open source. We have mentioned Lagoon, the open source application development platform, which is at the heart and at the core of our open source WebOps platform. And we are growing in terms of capabilities, of features. We serve more use cases, we have more technologies, and we're even more frameworks which we're supporting. One other thing we just launched actually 2 weeks ago is, and you have seen it in the video, is actually we launched a new partner agency program. So now we are strengthening the relationship and partnerships with those agencies. And these are now really trusted relationships which help us to grow our business and the go-to-market. And the fourth one is, again, building about the team. So we really were able to build a strong, highly skilled team, fully distributed, fully remote, and we are covering, as I said, all geolocations to really provide the best-in-class enterprise-grade web services and support for our outstanding customers. And the big advantage is that it is fully remote, because now this gives us the advantage of hire talent wherever that talent is. So that's awesome for a company, especially not only during COVID, but during those times, because as I said, it's about the skills everybody's bringing to the table. So this was more about speaking about the recent accomplishments, but you might be also interested in what's coming next. And if I'm looking ahead, what is really exciting is the whole technology industry and community is evolving at rapid speed. And Michael mentioned it, we continuously need to adapt. So every day we hear about new innovations, we hear about new updates, and it's also important for us at Amazia.io to stay ahead of the curve. So this is key for our own business, and this is also very important for our customers. And therefore, again, let me highlight 4 areas where we will continue to invest. First of all, Kubernetes, as it seems currently, it came to stay. And that's awesome, because it brings a lot of advantages to its users, no matter what use cases. But what we also see with Kubernetes is that the complexity is increasing. And this is a complexity which needs to be dealt with. And with our DevOps and managed Kubernetes capabilities, we will continue to support our customers so they can focus on innovation, leveraging modern technologies, and our team, Amazia.io, will come in and make sure that the operations of our customers is covered, is secured, and as said, that's so that they can focus on the business. Second area which we're seeing is we're currently living in the age of automation. So we see the increasing need of highly automated application delivery platforms, something we have built with Lagoon. So building the bridge between developers and production on the other hand side. And we will continue to enrich Lagoon. So you will see more frameworks, more templates, more build packs, better APIs to ease the life of our developers. But it's also really exciting for us that we see an ecosystem spanning around Lagoon. So we see more customers and more partners actually contributing to Lagoon, which makes it richer. And therefore, as said, it's more adoptable also for other customers. The third area is we will clearly continue our customer-first, customer-centric support and service approach. That's a differentiator for us. Make it as easy and seamless to communicate with our teams in case of any issues. So we are not the type of you have to raise a ticket first and you will get back in 48 hours type of company. So we stand for fast, competent, high quality feedback and issue resolution. And modern collaboration tools actually will help us in serving and providing these values to our customers. And that's clearly one of the differentiating factors in the industry which we're operating. And last but not least, what we're also seeing is these infrastructure variations out in the market, the rise of multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environments. Organizations really demand flexible and infrastructure independent DevOps platform. Customers, they don't want to deploy on infrastructure. They want to deploy on an infrastructure of their choice and don't want to be tied to a provider. So that's not in the age we're living. They want to continue to invest in the freedom of choice, and we provide that solution. So we provide whatever is best suits the demand of the customer and our partners. And these are 4 initiatives where we see, okay, this is in the direction we're going. So you will see we will continue innovate because we need to innovate to stay ahead of the curve. We will focus on Kubernetes. We will focus on managed Kubernetes, especially because we see that complexity rising. And we, as a team, have that knowledge to serve those customers and partners best.
That's awesome. We're going to open up for Q&A in just a second if anyone wants to drop in a question, but I just wanted to take a moment and underline something that you guys all touched on, which I thought was really cool because so much stuff has changed. We're talking about the early days, those spreadsheets, a million hits, celebrations, all of that stuff has changed. But what I really noticed from what everyone is saying throughout the different questions is that like the differentiators and the like principles that you guys started out with all the way back in the beginning in those board meetings and business cases, that those have really remained central, even though all the technology has changed so much and might change again. So I think that's really cool, and it's really exciting to see that continue to the future. Yeah. Can we do some questions? If no one suggests any, I have some. Yeah. Well, I sort of asked Michael this, but I'd love for someone else to answer about like a moment or a success or something that just made you personally really proud along the way on the journey. If you don't volunteer, I'll. How about you, Tyler?
One of the things that has stuck out to me, even after a short while of Amazee.io existing, is being at events and having our presence there to reach out to new customers, but having people come up and say, "Oh yeah, I heard about you guys," or "Yeah, I saw that Lagoon thing you're working on," or what was it? I think it was DrupalCon Austria. We had someone who was really interested in the whole thing join us in the booth, and he actually like contributed to Lagoon right there beside us, asking questions and how do things work and stuff like that. And so, seeing our success, but also the success of an open source platform that people like, "Oh, I've heard of that," "Oh, I use that," or "My client uses it," things like that. Like that is really powerful to me. Like it's awesome. Always brings a smile on my face.
Because you've been to a lot of events. Did you notice that like picking up speed? More people coming up?
Yeah, and word, like we used to have the traveling cluster with us, and word would get around and people like, "Oh, I saw a photo of that at a previous event. I want to come play with that thing," back from our very early days, the pre-Lagoon days, stuff like that. But yeah, people, you'd always run across someone, and then yeah, as we got bigger and our name a little bit more spread out, people would definitely know us better. Yeah, it's really awesome.
Awesome. Bastian, how about you? What's a big win or a moment you felt really proud?
Yeah, so there are tons of things. One, I mean, we Tyler said that already. We had a traveling cluster, which was like a huge box, which we always took with us. And this was actually running the exact same code as we were running in production. Like we coupled that together on a weekend or two in like when we were basically sitting next to each other. And the fun thing is we built the whole database cluster on Raspberry Pis, which was like, it took us probably half the weekend to get that done. And it's really fun because we made a blog post about it years ago, and somebody hit me up maybe a few weeks ago and was like, "So probably you're the only person that I can find something on the internet that was running the database cluster on Raspberry Pi. How did you do it?" And yeah, I basically searched for whatever I had and was like, that's everything I have. But like seeing that with sharing all the things and like doing the open source work that we always were doing is really great, and also being recognized for it.
That's awesome. I've got a fun question in the Q&A. What's the coolest or weirdest thing that you've seen hosted on any of IO's platforms? Everyone's smiling.
I don't know. Who has an idea? Who I'm scrolling through all sites right now. So,
any unusual projects or technologies you saw?
I mean, like that. One of them, Dania knows. Like, remember
which one are you referring to, Michael? We have
one customer.
Confidentiality.
No. We have one customer that wants to create its own country or its own state, and we hosted the website for that state. and they proclaimed like they will have their own currency and things like that. It was always fun to like read this, because on one side, like, it was an interesting challenge like for them, and but also like saying like, is this really gonna work? But they really believed in it, and yeah, the website is not there anymore, so we'll see. But I think, yeah, it's interesting for me specifically, seeing like, especially having big brand names suddenly on the platform, like websites that you used to use your own, or that you used to run, like one of them is like, for me, like my dog, she has like these tick medicine, and recently I realized that like we host a website for the tick medicine, like without knowing. It's like these, hey, what? Oh, interesting. Yeah, so you slowly take over the internet, basically.
That's awesome. And it kind of, I think that this one also leads, I guess it's Michael who's going to write the tell-all book. Now that the company is 5 years old, that was one of the questions. Who's going to write the tell-all book of anecdotes of Amazee.io? So we'll just go
Yeah, I
ahead.
think this will need to involve some late nights sitting together when we can again, and maybe we could write the history, and maybe with a book that is public in one and parts that are not.
Open source. Nice. This is a cool one too. We've seen Amazee.io show up many times at DrupalCons, always with something cool and interesting. What are some ideas you wish you could pull off once we're back to in-person conferences?
A Raspberry Pi Kubernetes cluster that doesn't weigh 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have this crazy idea once that we want to play whack-a-mole against Kubernetes. Like, one of the really cool thing is that Kubernetes is self-healing and auto-scaling. So I'm envisioning like that you play whack-a-mole with actual pods that are running, and so you have to like hit them and they will die, and Kubernetes will start them again. And that we would actually like run a really big website that is on our clusters running, and that people in a conference can try to get the site down. We'll see. Maybe 5 years.
Right, one day. Well, yeah, that kind of, I was thinking about in-person things, and when all of this is over, I wanted to ask, what's something that you're most looking forward to when we're all able to see each other again? How about you, Franz?
Well, I think that the one thing we're really looking forward is that we come together as a team. So we actually had planned this out for last year summer, where we wanted to bring everyone for the first team meeting ever. Unfortunately, COVID somehow was preventing us from this, and therefore this is definitely the thing, because I joined basically 13 months ago. I've never met anyone in person yet. So yeah, there are big advantages of being a fully remote team, as I've mentioned already, Biff. Okay, you can hire talent wherever they are sitting. But honestly, from time to time, it would be really cool sitting on a table, having a drink together and brainstorm about new things or discuss them out. Of course, it feels like Michael is sitting just across that room with Zoom and all the technology. But I think having an in-person conversation and also maybe offer company topics that bounce even more. I think we have a great culture, and I think we are really very closely connected, given our values, which we are also seeing and which are important to us. But really having an in-person meeting with the entire team, this is what I'm really looking forward in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely really true. Amazee has been doing, Amazee.io has been doing remote work forever, and now kind of everyone's understands the challenges of that, but so much good work in keeping a culture remotely and feeling connected. Yeah. Greg, did you have anything you were gonna add? I saw you unmute, so I didn't mean to pick on you.
No, I'm all right. Franz said it all.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, guys, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out and celebrating. It's so wonderful to see all of your faces. And yeah, 5 years. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication and creativity and innovation and fun Zoom meetings and everything. And hopefully everyone will be able to get together soon. Celebrate year 6 in person. Thanks for coming out, guys.
Thanks, all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Felix.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.